Hi, my name is Lynx. We're here at Airtight Studios in Chichester with Knowledge magazine. I first started coming here just to really use the equipment, and then I just became a sound engineer here after 6 months or so, working alongside artists such as Stacker, Skynet, Friction, KT, Raiden. We've had crafty cuts through the doors here, Mampy Swift. Yeah, so it was a great place to start writing drum and bass, gain experience with the equipment, and really craft my sound. Okay, so I use Cubase SX as my sequencer. Lots of people use different sequencers, but for me, I'm really comfortable with Cubase. When I'm on the road, I use Logic just to get ideas down. But yeah, I've been on Cubase for best part of 10 years now. Just feel really comfortable with the environment, the way it works. Also use the Mackie mixing desk. It's great for getting distorted bass lines, get that old analog sort of sound. With all the software equipment we've got nowadays, I don't think there's anything that beats a good bit of analog warmth. You know, there's so many plugins that emulate this, but for me there's nothing better than what can basically warm up a sound. You can get a great drum and bass Reese bass line, run it through the Mackie desk, bit of distortion, bit of EQ, and you end up with a fantastic sound and much warmer than you would get in a computer. I know people like Optical and that many years ago used to use this desk. It's kind of become a bit of a drum and bass mixing desk, I guess. So we also use an EMU sampler, 6400 Ultra. I have a huge catalogue of sounds on the old zip discs that I still use a lot of them. Might just load them into the sampler, and rather than really go deep in the sampler now, I use it just to trigger the sounds out of the zip discs onto the computer. It's just another sound module really, that's how I use it. The Roland JV, great for stock pianos, strings, anything like that. One of the best bits of kit in the studio for me is the Moog Voyager. Great synth, classic Moog sounds in there, and really fat. It's one of those synths where you're forever, once you put a sound in, you're forever turning the mix down compared to your other elements in a track, because the sound just really cuts through every other sound, so it's really good for your main sounds in the mix. I also use the Mackie HR824 monitors. They're really great sound, not too much bass, which I really like because I like to get a good amount of detail into my sound, and sometimes I just find if you have too much bass in a room, it just swamps the mix and you can't pay attention to all the different details in the mids and the high frequencies. Yeah, and these speakers are really great in this room. They sound really good. So my favourite bit of kit and probably favourite synth is the Elisa's Andromeda. It's great for sci-fi, kind of almost prog rock, kind of crazy synth sounds. Great for inspiration. It's a good place to start your track because it certainly opens up other sonic possibilities that certainly working in software doesn't allow for. It has a lot of crazy dials, and a lot of the time you'll sort of jam in some riffs and find that what you end up with is not what you started with at all. The sound can completely morph. The way the synth works is it's all very analog, so things go in and out of tune, but that can be the charm of the synth, I think. Yeah, you often end up with 6 minutes of audio of just something you've jammed in with the Andromeda, and you often find that you might only take 1 minute, but it'll be the main part of your track. Other than that, I'm mainly based in the computer now, just for convenience. Easy to transfer files, you know, if I want to take my beat from a track and work in it on my laptop when I'm on the road, then it's easily transferable, whereas obviously the external synthesizers, I can't take them with me on the road, so it's much easier to have everything at least based in the computer. But all the time I'm here at the studio, I can quite easily, you know, access any of these synths. Most of the drum tracks I build in my songs are from Stylus. like the next release on Detail, Dirty Red, all the drums are pretty much built in stylus. Basses, I like to use Trilogy. I'll often get a basic bass tone from Trilogy, run it through the Mackie desk, maybe with a bit of distortion, resample it back into the computer and possibly layer the two together. Sometimes it would just be the one layer depending. I mean, the big issue with doing things like that is phasing, so things can quickly go in and out of time because they might be slightly offset. So I try to keep my sounds and the process how I do it as simple as possible, so not too much layering if I can get away with it. I really like to have sort of an organic background to my sound, so things like orchestral sounds and even percussion adds a real edge to the music, rather than where a lot of music nowadays is produced in a computer. It's very easy to get a synthetic sound, but for me I'm really striving to get a more realistic sound, and things like orchestral and using live elements like a vocalist or a guitar player, they can really help get a more organic feel to a track. When I started producing, a lot of the way I was taught was to make things fatter and fatter so that they sound bigger and bigger, but I certainly find nowadays that it's a lot easier to make things a little thinner and not quite as fat as they could be, because then you end up with a lot more space for the bigger picture of the whole tune. So for example, if you make your kick as fat as it can possibly be, you're not going to have space for anything else. So I think a lot of up and coming producers are always trying to find the fattest sound, and I'd say just do your thing and try and make everything balanced. Music, any kind of music, is all about finding the balance, the tone, to make the overall picture be presented in the best way it possibly can. So yeah, I think for any up and coming producers, find your balance, and that's the best thing you can do. So I started Detail recordings in April of last year. It felt a good time for me to start my own label after doing the Raw Truth album with Marcus Intellects and Solar. It just felt a good time to do my own thing. Well, I really wanted to try and push a sound that is all-encompassing, so it's not just drum and bass. I'm getting remixes from other artists, like some really cool dubstep artists called Seed. I'm doing some remixes of tracks myself, so a lot of the time my packages are not just like an A and a B vinyl, there'll be remixes in other genres, which keeps things really interesting. And a lot of the time when I do the remixes, I try and keep very true to the original, so that effectively you have the same song in another genre but keeping very close to the original sound. And it's really interesting to do that, because I think you really start seeing lots of good parallels between things like dubstep and drum and bass, where actually the most important thing is the song rather than, you know, what style it is. It's all about the content that's in there. It's been a good experience. The running the label last year was a little slow, but getting the process down, keeping in touch with the distributor, with the graphic designer, the guy who does my website, keeping all those things together is I found a really good experience last year. And now moving into 2011, I've got a really busy release schedule. It's going to be a different single every month basically. So Chess Funk and the Foundry, which is Detail number 4, has just come out. End of March there'll be Dirty Red, which is a collaboration with Hellraiser, who is the owner of Airtight Studios here. On the flip side, there's 5am Soul City, which is a collaboration with a vocalist from Sydney called Spiky T. Really talented soul, kind of a little bit of reggae in his voice. Yeah, he's originally from London but now lives in Sydney. He's a very good vocalist. He'll also be collaborating with him later in the year. So I've just finished the writing process for my next album, which I'm hoping will be out in September. Yeah, it's kind of half a continuation, I guess, of where I left off with the Raw Truth album that was on Solar, and the other half is just like a whole new venture. There's some different sounds and they're completely different styles of music. The Raw Truth was obviously an album with myself and Kmag, whereas this is like a solo album for me. Still with lots of collaborations. There'll be Kmag's on there, DRS, Spiky T, as I mentioned earlier, who's on one of the earlier singles for Detail. So a lot of collaborations again with vocalists. That's about all I can say at the minute, but yeah, planning for a September release. The Pulp Fiction remix will be out within a month. Spy's Terminator remix is on the other side. So for me, writing the Pulp Fiction remix was a real personal thing, because Pulp Fiction is one of my favourite drum and bass tracks of all time. For me, it really ties in with my sound too. The way Alex Reese used to do his beats, I absolutely love it. Very like loose, live sort of sounding. But you still know that it's good drum programming going on there. When I did the remix, it was just a personal thing. I actually just did it as a bit of a re-edit for me to play in clubs, and it was just a little bit of an experiment to see if I could recreate Pulp Fiction from the ground upwards. Other remixes I've been doing, I've just done recently James Blake Limit to Your Love remix. Again, like the Pulp Fiction one, I wasn't asked to do it, I just did it off my own back because I absolutely love what James Blake is doing right now. I think it's really interesting, really fresh, and I think although it's a very different style of music, I can see the connection between deep drum and bass and what he's doing with his sound. Yeah, a lot of people have been playing it. I'm getting a lot of requests from drum and bass DJs that normally I wouldn't really expect to be playing my music, like Chasing Status seem to be playing it. A lot of like the Ram crew are playing it, so I'm really happy with that. I'm currently as well just doing another James Blake remix of William's Scream, which is his next single. Like, another great song, and like really just good fun to get into doing those kind of remixes. The final remix, which is kind of, I guess, more of a remake than a remix, is Climbing Up the Walls, which is originally a Radiohead song that me, Marcus Intellects have covered, and it's actually Fierce on the vocals. And he did an absolutely amazing job recreating the Radiohead vocals. It was a real pleasure to work with him in the studio. Fierce is quite a character, and yeah, that really came across in his vocal performance. He was extremely nervous, but he did a great job and really conveys a similar emotion, I guess, to what Tom York does. So really happy with that. We've got like granted licensing to release that, and that'll be on Marcus's album 21. I think it's end of March. When I DJ out, I play a lot of my own music, including a lot of re-edits, like the James Blake kind of stuff. I do a lot of these kind of re-edits purely as for a DJ purpose, really. Adds a different side, different flavour to my music. Outside of my own stuff and detail recording stuff, I'm playing music from artists like Alex Perez, Calibre, Marcus Intellects, D-Bridge, New Tone. He has a lot of good music out there, and there's a lot of new artists that are really exciting. There's some guys called 11-8 that are doing some quite cool stuff at the moment. I'm playing a fair bit of them. LSB, he's got some really cool new tunes I'm playing out at the moment. Yeah, and alongside drum and bass, I sort of, because I've been producing a lot of other types of music alongside the drum and bass, it's sort of reflected in what I DJ too, because I'm playing a little bit of glitch, kind of wonky hip-hop music. It fits in really nice with my drum and bass. It's pretty much directly half tempo, so it's mixable. A lot of the music is quite free form in terms of tempo, so it can be quite a challenge at times, but good fun, and a good way, I think, of taking the crowd down on a bit more of a musical level, bit obscure, and then, you know, you come back in with a nice drum and bass track. It yeah, really lifts the crowd. You can catch me down at Fluid Bar for Knowledge Magazine night on April the 1st. So that's it from me here at Airtight Studios. Hope you enjoyed the interview.